Hi, welcome to another video of this channel. This is a series where I will explain and theorize about the lore of the mysterious game series Rusty Lake. Now, before we move on to Rusty Lake Hotel, I want to make some corrections to the Rusty Lake Paradise video I did. In that video, I said that the family tricked Jacob into sacrificing the black cubes so that they would get enlightened, but now I'm not so sure about that theory. Here's what I think actually happened. The family wanted to sacrifice Jacob to the lake so they would become enlightened on the day of the lake, where someone has to die in exchange for enlightenment. However, Caroline offered to be sacrificed instead, and so they sacrificed her. The lake wanted Jacob, not Caroline, and so cursed them with the 10 plagues. The family realized that Jacob would have to be sacrificed, so they got him to return to the island so they could sacrifice him on the day of the lake. However, in secret, with Caroline's corrupted soul's help, Jacob sacrificed the 10 cubes, which would create the elixir when they are all put into the well. The family didn't know that Jacob was doing this at all. When the day of the lake came, they sacrificed Jacob just as planned. The lake accepted the family's sacrifice of their firstborn, and the family became enlightened. But just before this, Jacob had sacrificed the 10th cube, creating the elixir. Because of the cubes creating the elixir, Jacob came back to life immediately and also became enlightened, turning into Mr. Owl. He had perfectly timed it so that the two rituals, Jacob being sacrificed and the 10th cube being sacrificed, would happen at the same time. So, the family becomes enlightened, Jacob gets resurrected immediately after his death and become enlightened. So, in this episode, we're talking about Hotel. The game takes place in 1893, almost a century after the events of Paradise. It seems like Mr. Owl built a hotel on the island where Paradise took place. It seems like Mr. Owl invited his family, who were also turned immortal, and now all have animal heads, to the hotel, and it looks like they don't recognize him. Now, it's important to talk about the two different types of enlightenment. In Cube Escape Theater, we find out there are different realms of existence. One of the realms is represented by the Sanskrit word Asura. This represents the immortal characters like Mr. Crow and the rest of the Ailander family. It appears that the Asura of Rusty Lake are like regular people, except they have animal heads and age a lot slower. It also looks like they can still die. Then there is a higher realm of enlightenment represented by the Sanskrit word Deva, translating to God. This applies to Mr. Owl, meaning that he is basically a god, or the ruler of the lake. We can see Mr. Owl is a lot more powerful than the other Asura characters. He has powers like summoning white beams of light, changing the weather. I'm guessing that Mr. Owl got this premium immortality package since he was the one who created the elixir with the cubes as Jacob and Caroline Ailander. In Rusty Lake Hotel, the player character is Harvey, an immortal parrot. In Paradise, we saw Harvey as a normal parrot, so my personal theory is that when the elixir went out of control, it ended up turning every living creature on the island into an Asura. We see more evidence for this. We see a bat-headed man who operates the elevator, and a Mr. Toad who appears to be the chef at the hotel. I'm guessing these two were also normal animals living on the island who became immortal during the fiery explosion. We also see Mr. Crow as the receptionist. We also get introduced to the immortal versions of the Ailander family. Gerard is now Mr. Boar, Elizabeth is now Ms. Pheasant, Nicholas is now Mr. Deer, David is now Mr. Rabbit, and Margaret is now Mrs. Pigeon. Mr. Owl invited the enlightened Ailanders to the hotel as part of his plan to discover the future. Somehow, by killing the guests and using their cubes, he would be able to create a magical white cube that can predict the future. Mr. Owl needed to know the future of Rusty Lake in order to prepare for it, and so, just like how the family invited Jacob to the island to kill him, Jacob now invites the family to the island to kill them. There is an elevator in the lobby which has 4 buttons. One of the buttons, however, is missing. That missing one is labelled -1 and leads to the basement of the hotel. In this game, we never get to go to the basement of the hotel, but we visit it in Underground Blossom and Cube Escape, the cave. It is a white room that sits at the very bottom of the lake. This room might have existed before the hotel was even built, because in Paradise, when Jacob swims through the well, we see a white square that looks a lot like the floor -1 of the hotel. I'll talk a bit more about this mysterious room in future videos. Harvey uses the elevator to go kill Mr. Deer. Mr. Deer used to be Jacob's father, Nicholas Alander. Harvey might have killed him first because Nicholas was the one who treated Jacob the worst. Mr. Deer wants Harvey to make him a Bloody Mary, perhaps a reference to him drinking blood in Rusty Lake Paradise. We can see that Mr. Deer is a bit of a scientist, with scientific equipment around the room. It seems that he's been researching the water at Rusty Lake. There's also a deer skull on the wall, which is concerning. In the lobby, Mr. Deer said he was more of a meat person, so maybe he was the one who killed this deer? There is a recipe for a Bloody Mary on the table, presumably left there by Mr. Owl for Harvey to read, since it mentions a special ingredient, which turns out to be poison. Harvey creates the poison and puts it into the Bloody Mary. Mr. Deer drinks it and dies, which is how Harvey obtains meat from Mr. Deer. The next morning, Harvey gives Mr. Toad the meat, and Mr. Toad cooks the first dinner. The other guests eat this dinner, and the fact that Mr. Owl decided to feed the guests with the remains of their family members doesn't seem to be very nice, suggesting that Mr. Owl might still hold a grudge against his family for trying to sacrifice him. Maybe part of the reason why he wanted to kill the guests was also for revenge. The next room Harvey goes to is Mr. Rabbit's room. Mr. Rabbit used to be David Alander, Jacob's brother. While he was a bit annoying in Paradise, he seems to be a lot nicer in Hotel. Unlike the other guests, Mr. Rabbit doesn't order Harvey around and instead just wants to rehearse his magic tricks. It appears he is rehearsing for a show at the Rusty Lake Theatre. However, there is one unusual thing that happens in his room. When looking out the window, we can see Mr. Rabbit's corrupted soul slowly moving past the window, even though at this point Mr. Rabbit is still alive. Maybe there is some sort of time travel involved. Later on, we see Mr. Rabbit go inside a box and place a stone with a spiral on it into the box, which makes Mr. Rabbit turn into a skeleton. Spirals seem to represent the future, and it seems as though this stone produced a vision of Mr. Rabbit being dead. Maybe Mr. Rabbit is able to perform actual time travel and is just pretending that it's only a magic trick. In Birthday, we see that after he became a corrupted soul, he went on a journey of collecting substances to try to escape his corruption. We see that he needed a pistol to escape his corrupted state, and that very pistol can be found in Ms. Pheasant's room later on. Maybe, after becoming corrupted, Mr. Rabbit travelled back in time to retrieve the pistol to use it to return to the living realm. Perhaps he was unable to find the pistol in 1893, so he travelled to 1939 to Dale's house looking for the pistol there. This seems to be further confirmed later on in Birthday. We see a scene that shows what happened to the hotel 1 year later, in 1894. We see the guests' corrupted souls escaping the hotel. If you pay attention, you can see that Mr. Rabbit does not appear in this scene at all. This seems to reinforce the idea that Mr. Rabbit may have done something else, such as travelling through time. Anyway, at the end of his magic act, Mr. Rabbit performs a trick where someone puts swords through a box while he's standing in it, yet Mr. Rabbit is perfectly unharmed. That was his plan at least, but it looks like Mr. Owl sabotaged the box, so when the swords are placed at the right positions, the swords would actually impale Mr. Rabbit. Harvey follows Mr. Owl's instructions and Mr. Rabbit dies, creating the next dinner, rabbit stew with carrots and white beans. That night, something strange happens. Outside the window, a shooting star appears, and the room goes dark. Then, the bat-headed elevator operator turns into an actual bat. Once the room brightens again, he turns back into an Asura form, which shows that it is possible for the enlightened animals to switch between their animal and Asura form. Afterwards, Harvey goes to Mrs. Pigeon's room. Mrs. Pigeon used to be Margaret Alander, Jacob's grandmother. Mrs. Pigeon is taking a bath, which perhaps was referenced in Paradise when Margaret was inside the cooking pot. She asks Harvey to get her some corn, and after that she seems satisfied and appears to fall asleep, meaning Harvey can start setting up the trap. After opening a large metal container, Harvey discovers a young bird attached to a machine with a lever that can electrocute said bird. Judging from some of the pictures on the wall, it becomes clear that Mrs. Pigeon is experimenting on the bird, trying to use electricity to extract cubes from the brain, perhaps to sacrifice them to the lake like they used to. Harvey finds 2 keys and frees the bird, who helps Harvey kill Mrs. Pigeon. Mr. Owl has put some sort of electricity generator next to the bath, and the bird helps Harvey turn on the machine. This severely electrocutes Mrs. Pigeon, waking her up from her sleep and then kills her. This seems to make them even, since Mrs. Pigeon was electrocuting the bird to extract cubes, and now the bird has electrocuted Mrs. Pigeon, extracting her memories. Now, I find it odd that she didn't see the electricity generator next to the bath, but the guests seem to be quite unobservant. So maybe Harvey giving Mrs. Pigeon a bath and feeding her corn was all that she cared about. The next guest which Harvey ruthlessly murders is Elizabeth Alander, who is now Ms. Pheasant. She has evidently become an actress, judging from the paper on her desk, which says that she'll be playing 3 parts in the play. Harvey helps Miss Pheasant by taking pictures of her dressed as the character she'll be playing as. Miss Pheasant also has a music box on her desk which plays a familiar melody. It's the same as the background music from Cube Escape Seasons, called Gymnopédie No. 3 by Eric Satie. This seems to be nothing more than a nice throwback to the first game in the series. At the end of the photo shoot, Harvey gives Ms. Pheasant a pistol, and when the picture is taken, she shoots herself and dies. This pistol is the one that Mr. Rabbit is after. We know it's the same one as the gun in Birthday, since Mr. Rabbit wanted it in Birthday as well. Now, Cube Escape Birthday is not completely reliable, as it takes place within a memory cube that has been modified and does not show a completely accurate sequence of events. However, I still believe that the gun in Birthday is the same as Hotel's pistol. Since this pistol is what killed Miss Pheasant, it makes sense why he calls it a substance from his past life. But why did Miss Pheasant shoot herself with it? I've seen many theories on this topic, but here is my, by no means certain, theory. I believe that Miss Pheasant didn't know that the pistol was real. Considering that she was an actress rehearsing for a theatre play, it seems likely that when Harvey gave her the pistol, she simply thought that it was a prop for another photo, which would explain why she agreed to point the pistol at herself. I'm guessing she just thought she was doing another pose. I've seen some people theorize that she was blind and didn't even know that she was holding a pistol. That seems unlikely. Yes, she was definitely blind in Paradise when she was Elizabeth Alander, but once she became Miss Pheasant, she no longer seems to be blind, especially since she became interested in photography. Some also theorize that Miss Pheasant felt regretful for having sacrificed Jacob and Caroline in Paradise, and that she shot herself on purpose as some kind of apology to Mr. Owl. I don't think this makes much sense either, since she doesn't seem to be very sorrowful or ashamed in Hotel. In fact, it's just the opposite. She clearly thinks quite highly of herself, seeing as she gets Harvey to take her picture 4 times and is also playing all of the parts in the play. She clearly wasn't planning on killing herself. She was going to participate in the play and everything. Either way, Miss Pheasant dies. The final guest that Harvey kills is Mr. Boar, who used to be Jacob's Uncle Gerard. Harvey might have killed him last because he was the least malicious family member on the island. There isn't that much to say about Mr. Boar. Harvey gives Mr. Boar an opium pipe to smoke. After this, the room begins to fill with smoke, and then suddenly we see the forest, the one which is apparently underneath the lake. Mr. Crow then appears and gives Harvey a knife, and then the room returns to normal. I think this scene is more of a hallucination from the smoke which filled the room. I think Harvey found the knife in a cupboard or something like that, and then imagined that Mr. Crow was the one who gave it to him. Harvey then examines the contents in the toilet and finds Mr. Boar's poo, drawing a similarity to Paradise. Harvey makes Mr. Boar a sandwich with lettuce, just like in Paradise. Once Mr. Boar eats it, he goes to the toilet, like in Paradise. With Mr. Boar out of the room, Harvey starts setting the next trap. Harvey hangs an axe on a string, then gets Mr. Boar to leave the toilet by giving him toilet paper, yet another similarity to Paradise. Once Mr. Boar sits down, he doesn't even notice the axe above his head. Harvey uses the knife to cut the string, and the axe falls on Mr. Boar's head, causing perhaps the most gruesome death out of all the guests. With all the guests gone, Harvey delivers the last dinner to Mr. Owl. Mr. Owl's room is filled with the skulls of all the guests. Besides Mr. Boar, we've actually seen the skulls of all the guests already. Mr. Owl calls the player Harvey, which is how we know we're playing as Harvey. He thanks Harvey for the memories, and looking at the rest of the room, it appears that he extracted the guests' black cubes, turning them into corrupted souls, and then imprisoned them within tanks of water. And it looks like Mr. Owl used Mrs. Pigeon's own machine to do it as well. Mr. Owl then repeats Caroline's words from 1796.
My memories are the key, not only to the past, but also to the future.
The memories are not only the key to the past, but also to the future.
Then he reveals the white cube, which was always his ultimate goal. Mr. Owl needed this cube, as it shows the future of Rusty Lake. It's unclear how killing the guests led to the creation of this future cube. But since Mr. Owl mentioned that the memories are the key to the future, it seems like he may have used those strange tanks to somehow combine the guests' memories, leading to the future cube's formation. The future cube shows the guests' future. We see them trapped within the woods beneath Rusty Lake. But since they're beneath the lake, that means that the cube also shows the future of Rusty Lake itself. 79 years into the future to be exact, as this cube shows 1972. We see a strange elevator behind the guests ascending from the hotel's basement, and the man inside the elevator. This man is Dale Vandermeer, and him being in the elevator means that he's destined to have a chance at being the ruler of the lake. This is why Mr. Owl needed the cube, to know who may become the next ruler of the lake. As the elevator ascends into the hotel, we see "To be continued." Funnily enough, we still haven't gotten the continuation 9 years after Hotel's release. However, it can be deduced what will happen once Dale finishes his journey from looking at the text throughout the games. On the next day of the lake, which is the day that the next ruler of Rusty Lake is chosen, Dale will reach the hotel through the elevator, where he might become the next ruler of the lake. However, there is only a 50% chance that he will become the next ruler of the lake. This is because we find out that Laura Vanderboom, the player character from Cube Escape Seasons and The Lake, is also destined to become a contender for the position, and she too arrives at the hotel from the basement. Once she arrives at the hotel, where Harvey and the bat-headed elevator operator will likely make an appearance, they'll probably perform some sort of cube-themed ritual, like in Paradise. Then the lake will make a decision. One of them will die, and the other one will become a Deva and take Mr. Owl's place as the ruler of the lake. This is what the game means by "to be continued." We'll find out who dies and who becomes the next god in this currently non-existent game. Mr. Owl hinted in Paradox that once the next ruler is chosen, he would transform himself into a regular, mortal fish of the animal realm. Mr. Owl needed to know who was destined to become the next ruler of the lake, so that he could prepare that person and take him up the elevator and into the hotel. There is one extra thing, however. In Cube Escape Birthday, we can see what happens a year after the events of Hotel. Harvey was with Mr. Owl when the guests' corrupted souls suddenly managed to break out of the tanks. The corrupted souls then kill Harvey before escaping the hotel. A white beam of light appears and Harvey flies away. I think this shows that Mr. Owl brought Harvey back to life, but unfortunately only as a regular parrot, not as an Asura. But at least it seems like Harvey still gets to be immortal, so it's not all bad. And anyway, that is the story of Rusty Lake Hotel. And if you want to see the next part in this series, subscribe so you won't miss it. And as always, I'll try to upload the next video slightly quicker.